I'm Walter Stewart. I am one of the owners at a friendly local game store, Tabletop Game and Hobby, which means I talk to a bunch of nerds all day while employees do the hard work. And it's pretty great.
But you used to, did you used to be one of the employees who did all the hard work while the managers got to
I
talk?
at one point, yes, one of the employees. So I've put in my time, and now I'm ready to just slack off and chat with people and do all the fun stuff.
Okay, do you know how long has Tabletop Game and Hobby been around?
Tabletop, Phil, the other owner, opened Tabletop in 1994. So we
Okay.
just had our 30th anniversary last year, which is mind-blowing. Because I was a wee bairn when the store opened, and my mom would drop me off there in the minivan, and I would go and I'd pester Phil to death. It was awful. I was the most obnoxious 16-year-old. And because they would come in, because back in the day, like as game stores go, we're relatively large these days. We have a decent number of employees, and there's a lot of folks in there and whatever. But when he started, it was like him, him and his wife running everything. So there would only be one person on staff at any time, so he couldn't leave or get away from, say, me when I would come in there every Thursday and be like, "Is the latest Vampire the Masquerade sourcebook in? I want to talk to you about it in detail." And it was... So I try to take that forward now, because he never murdered me, even though I clearly, insufferable. But, so, yeah, now I try to pass that forward, that when the wee bairn comes in and they want to talk about their level 20 assassin paladin in detail and everything they've done their campaigns, like, right, let's do this, kid. Love it. Tell me all about it. I want to hear it. So I was exactly in your shoes, 30 years ago, and I'm here for it, so...
You never, again, you can put whatever PR spin you want it, but you never get irritated. I know exactly so as a non-employee, having been in gaming for decades, you're standing in an aisle looking at something, or you're playing with a new group with somebody, and it's just a person who wants to talk to you for an hour about their campaign, or the person, so they want to explode facts and details upon you. How do you handle this?
That's again, because I was that kid.
Okay, you're like, guy. I get it.
I did that, man, and my parents, they didn't want to hear about Warhammer from me, and it's like, did you know that this is what the tower do, and then the orcs are, and Roboot Gilliman is doing, and bleh, and I'm that kid, in my heart, and I got used to see the glazed eyes from people, and I would do this to Phil. It's like, you know what the World of Darkness just did? Ravnos has come back. I remember when the Week of Nightmares happened, and you're going to hear about it now. Look what you stepped in. but when they did that whole thing with Ravnos coming back, it was a big deal in Vampire at the time, and he had to hear exhaustively about it. And so, I know, and it made me feel good, though, to finally go to a place and be able to do this just info barf on this poor bastard behind the counter. And I appreciate it so much that it was like, I get to go to a place and do it. So I put myself in that shoe. And yeah, I'm done with your story sometimes. Like, sometimes you tell me the story and it's like, okay, this has been going on for a long time. But I was always so excited to do it. So it's like, yeah, let's do it. And you'd be shocked how many times you'll get a story like that and it'll be just that kind of tale that I'm just telling. And it's so and then they'll drop in a little detail, and it's like, and then my game master did XYZ, and it's like, well, back up. tell me that. Hold on. I admittedly, I was a little toned out for part of that, because it had been going on for a while. But then some, like, gem will just drop, and you're like, holy shit, that's a good idea. You should, let's go back and dig into that a little bit, and I'm going to steal that for my game and not credit you, and it's going to be great. So,
And the other thing, so these are people, you could stand in front of the bookshelf at Barnes and Noble, the 1 or 1.5 bookshelves that have D&D and whatever major stuff is out of Critical Role. But to find, most people are not going to be interested in your niche. And so to go to a place, again, like comic book stores are the same thing. Most people don't care about comic books. So I go to the comic book store and these people really do. Most people don't care about this role-playing game or this board game I'm playing. I go to this place, these people do.
Yeah, and it's hard. My favorite thing is when you see the parents that were my parents, and they bring in their little tiny nerd, and this tiny nerd is obviously exhausting these parents because they want to talk about whatever. They're into Warhammer, they're into D&D, they're into, this board game, whatever. Their niche nerd thing they're into. And their parents have, God bless them, have tried to like put up with it, but they don't know what it is, and it's not something they were into, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And then the kid comes in and talks to one of us behind the counter there, and they're like, hey, I'm looking for X niche thing. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's this, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, these strangers know about this? There's people out there in the world, and it feels great. And so, you want to let them get that out of their system. And after a while, ideally they grow up into functional adults like me, who I don't often do this to people. You can talk to my girlfriend sometime about how successful maybe I am at sometimes restraining my desire to explain the latest nuance of the Warhammer lore that recently dropped. But mostly I'm okay about it these days, but,
Do you think it's a growth? It's probably, you still have the propensity, you're excited about these things, you collect all these facts in your head and build this web of knowledge, but now do you think you get older and you develop more self-awareness about the fact that you understand that these other people don't care as much about it? So you try to think about, what are they getting from the conversation? What do you think pulls you back from doing that now?
Yeah, I think it's the ability to calibrate, like, is this story interesting to another nerd in my niche? And then I need to find that nerd, of which there are many that I can have. It's like, this is the conversation I can have with Nerd X, because Nerd X is right down in the rabbit hole with me. And then, or is this story have things that's interesting to someone that's not? And I try to think of it like, my big analogy is I'm not a sports guy. And I think sports, great, man, you're having fun, whatever. But there are sports stories that to me are like, that's an interesting story. Like, they'll tell me something like the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl for the third time in a row, and maybe it's like, that's an interesting fact, like, this has never happened, da-da-da, this is cool. But then sometimes people get in the weeds about somebody's stats or whatever on things, and it's like, I don't know. And I feel like this is what, and then I'll turn around, and it's like, hey, did you hear the latest balance update with the Space Wolves? Their new blah, blah, blah is doing this, and it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, Exactly, you don't. So keep your stories so it's, and so you learn to calibrate those of, this is a story for, like, the level of expertise in the person that you're talking to, level of interest in the person that you're talking to. And there are Warhammer stories that are interesting to everybody, and there are Warhammer stories that are interesting to me. And so
this is, I mentioned, this gaming is a niche, but yeah, gaming is a niche full of niches. So I'm curious, and you have, if you were going when you were a little wee bairn, a little wee nerd, all the way to now, I have watched. I'm older than you. I have watched a shift in who's playing gaming and the kinds of games people play. So I wonder if we could talk about what games does tabletop specialize or have on hand now, and then how have you seen that change over the years, having watched the evolution?
Well, the biggest one, and this is where my heart, I've talked a lot. I keep going back to Warhammer because that's my thing that I like.
Of course, sure.
Geek hard about. But honestly,
is that always? I figure Warhammer. When I went to tabletop for the first time, coming into from California 20-some years ago, there was lots of role-playing game stuff there and some board game stuff. But clearly, Warhammer was a huge. People come in and spend a lot of money on buying this stuff, so that was a major focus.
Those little plastic dudes, man.
Yeah,
that really helps keep the lights on. I'll tell you that. Warhammer's a big one. But like in my heart, like I'm a role player. That's my hobby that I started. Like that was my first nerd hobby, was role-playing games. And that kind of thing. And that's also, the evolution on that has been insane. Because for a long time, it was like, it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Correct.
And you had Dungeons and Dragons, and that's everything. And then you had, like, here's some Call of Cthulhu, and here's a little Shadowrun, and here's, like, there's some other games that were there, but they weren't huge, especially compared to Dungeons and Dragons. And Dungeons and Dragons is still obviously that's the game. I mean, that's the game everyone's heard about. That's the most popular one. We sell mountains of it. But this last few years, and because of 5th edition D&D, honestly, and because of like how it's gotten into culture, and we've gotten Stranger Things, and we've gotten the movie, and we've gotten Critical Role doing their awesome things to like really like bring it in there. But now the last few years has been just this explosion. Like my favorite shelf. Don't tell the other shelves this.
Okay.
My favorite shelf is our weird like indie RPG bin, where we just have like one whole wall of slat wall that's just covered in nonsense, and it's just
dope. It's like all those little pamphlets and booklets and games and stuff.
Yeah, I was a wee punk lad back in the day, and so like little zine style like things they speak to my heart. But that is my favorite, and that was unheard of. Back when I started playing these role-playing games, it's like, Dungeons and Dragons and like the 4 other ones,
Right.
And now there's everything. Whatever nonsense game niche you want to find, they want to go. And what happened, especially recently with like when Wizards of the Coast was like, we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot a bunch of times in a row. And I was like, oh, guys, stop.
I feel like complaining about Wizards of the Coast is actually a very important topic among many gamers, brings many gamers together.
Yeah, it's a vital part of the hobby is complaining about Wizards of the Coast. It's funny, Warhammer has the same sort of vibe. It's like, we love Warhammer, and it's like, but complaining about Games Workshop is like a vital part of the hobby. But anyway, like, so Wizards of the Coast shot themselves in the foot, and it brought a bunch of people in to talk about other games, and that's been like the last few years incredible. And my favorite thing is people come in and they learned about D&D from the internet or whatever, and that was the game they played, and they got really into it and they love it and they played D&D. And then they're like, we kind of want to branch off of D&D for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then they'll come into the shop and they're like, hey, we like sci-fi. Are there any like sci-fi role-playing games? And it's like, oh, sweet summer child, yes, I have so many, and I'm so excited to get to bring them down to the.
It used to just be like, TSR Star Frontier. I mean, it was D&D, and there's a sci-fi game. It's from the same people who made D&D. Right. Star Frontiers. That's it.
It's different. It's D&D in space.
Right.
And so now I have. Do you want goofy, like more fantasy sci-fi of like a Starfinder? Do you want like gritty sci-fi with your Traveler, or do you want horror sci-fi with your Mothership? It's like I have like 19 different cool sci-fi games to show you. Or they'll be like, are there any horror RPGs? And it's like, yes. And it's finally getting people, because it's like, and it's so nice because there's all these people that played D&D and they've enjoyed D&D, but high fantasy might not be their jam. And it's like, I've got a game for you. Like, there's that one Brindlewood Bay where it's like cozy mysteries, like in a, Murder, She Wrote vibe, except also Cthulhu Lovecraftian. And it's like, this game didn't exist 20 years ago, because it's like, that's the nichest of niches. But there are people that come in, they're like, that's my game. They made that one for me. And it's like, great, here you are. And there's so many games like that are just so awesome that you can get these like very specific things, and there's a market for it now, and there's an audience for it, so like you can get it out there and do it, and like has nice production value, and there's these gorgeous games, and whatever ridiculous nonsense that you want to play, it's like, it's here. I will show you that silly game, and go for it.
So there's such a thing, whatever the cliche is, like an embarrassment of riches, like almost like there's too much. So I know, wandering around at Kickstarter and stuff, wandering around the internet, as you said, a game for every single gamer. It's out there. It's being kickstarted. Somebody's done it in a zine. But you can't carry all that in the store. So what kind of choices in this moment where there are so many games in the role-playing market, how do you decide this is what I'm going to pay to put on the shelf and see if it sells?
It's so hard. And part of it, and it's not a part, like, I like to think I'm pretty okay at my job, and this is a part that I'm not fantastic at, because I tend to err on the side of all of it.
Right.
It's just more.
Let's try it. Try it.
Like, and then, I'll get stuff in, and then my poor employees are like, there's not room for this. And it's like, I know, but figure it out. But do that somehow. And I don't know, they have a Doctor Who vibe where they can somehow find room for all the nonsense I bring in and still get it to look good. But it's hard, and it's a matter of finding out, like, finding things that are, like, perennial sellers. Like, there's niche things, and at the end of the day, I have to accept that there's some things that are, like, me and one other person in Kansas City wants this game, and I've sold it to them, so I can probably not have this on the shelf. And if somebody wants it, I'm always happy to say I can special order it, but I have to accept that, me and Joe over there got our game, and no one else wants it, because... come on, it's absurd. So, it's just a matter of finding the things that are like, things that are niche but perennial versus things that are niche and like you managed to sell it to the two people that wanted it. And figuring that out. And that's why, we err on the side of, I want to bring stuff in and see what goes. Worst case scenario is it goes on the clearance rack, or we throw it in the used section at a discount and somebody gets a deal on it. Great. But I want to see the churn of stuff coming through, because there's so much cool stuff, and you never know what lands. Like, some games and you can predict it to a degree, but you don't know. It's what the world, the zeitgeist decides. Like, this is great. Like, and you have things that I hope will do well, and sometimes they do, and sometimes I'm like, oh, it's disappointing that no one liked that but me. But fair enough, no one liked it but me. But then I'll get things like we sold just a mountain of Eat the Reich, which I love. That's Rowan Rook and Deckard's game where you play vampires airdropped into Paris to fight Nazis in World War II, and it's awesome. The book is gorgeous, it's stylish, it's sexy, the writing is so good, the game's brilliant. It's just this great little, like, kind of one-shotty sort of thing. And it sold like mad, and I was so pleased that, like, we got a ton of it in, and it just sold like crazy. Because people were like, this book is cool and whatnot. But you just have to sort of aim and try to figure out what's going to go on. You get some instincts for it, but
okay,
I get it wrong a lot.
When I walk into tabletop, yeah, I go through the board games, but I go through the horseshoe around because I'm really looking for the books. And you say, hey, it's hard to find room for the books, but every RPG usually starts with one book. So it's just one book. That's all you need to play the game forever. One book. Now, when you walk into the store, there are the board games, and board games are not as merciful in how much space they take, how heavy they are, how expensive they are. So there are role-playing games. You've talked about the Warhammer miniatures. Board games have exploded.
Yes. And that is, honestly, one of the things that keeps us going there is the fact that so many of them right now, they keep going in and out of print. So that saves me some space where it's like, can you get this game? It's like, no, I can't. And I'm sad about that, but what can you do? When is he going to get that back? I don't know. Fall. So
because are they coming from small publishers in small batches?
It depends on the game, but yeah, a lot of them are everyone. Like, I mean, we like to think board games have exploded, but it's like, man, we're still like, compared to, say, video game, whatever, like, it's still a small market compared to other things out there in the world. So a lot of them are like relatively small amounts, and there's only so many in a publishing run, and a lot of the companies that are doing it are small, so it's like, well, this is the size of the print run we can do, and we can afford to do another print run when that print run sells. So there's this gap in between there, and of course, everything going on right now, woo, good times, no stress there. It's even more up in the air of, like, when stuff's available and when things can get over.
And the possibility of tariffs, again, stuff having things produced in other countries, and then the possibility that that's going to arbitrarily tweak costs and numbers.
It's very exciting times. But that's another one where you have to figure out, like, I have a constant thing of, like, these are our top 50, top 100 games that sell, and it's like, I make sure we have backstock of those. Versus, this game, it's like, I'll have one of those on the shelf because it's neat, but maybe once a month or so somebody comes in like, I want this game. And again, just figuring out that what's something that we sell a lot of and what's something that's more niche so that we only carry the amount of, and that's 90% of my job is honestly just figuring out how much of X we need based on how popular that product ends up being, kind of thing.
Do you have a feel there was always, so comic books started this out again with the crossovers where they're like, hey, for a month or 2 months or 3 months, we could get everybody to buy every issue of every comic we put out. And so role-playing games, again, they would be like, I did it too. If somebody's playing Werewolf from White Wolf, and every splat book, every extra book we put out that has new stuff, somebody's a completionist, they're going to get everything. Does that same completionist tendency that's in maybe miniatures or role-playing games, does that translate to board games? Or if somebody likes a game, they want everything from that company, or they want everything involved in that game?
Not nearly as much. And there are people that do that for sure. There's definitely some folks out there that are like, oh, I'm going to get every Uwe Rosenberg game that exists. But that's a lot less common. I don't think there's the same, like, line loyalty or brand loyalty to board games, because I think just people in general are less, like, when you play D&D, you know what Wizards of the Coast is. When you play White Wolf game, Vampire and whatnot, you know what, like, these White Wolf games are. So you want everything in that line because they're also so connected. Whereas, the next Uwe Rosenberg game, well, I don't need to have played the last Uwe Rosenberg game to enjoy the new one, and they're not connected. I mean, you can tell some mechanical things that he does that he's very good at, but, like, I don't necessarily need all of these to be, like, part of this collection. And you'll see there'll be some games that'll have, like, series to them that you'll see people get. Like, there's, your Munchkins and your Red Dragon Inns and whatnot. There's absolutely people that are like, I want every Red Dragon Inn expansion and every character that comes out bam. And like I want every smash up because there's so many that you can mix together. But most board games are so much more like this is a one complete item that you've gotten. And maybe we'll get some expansions out for it later that you might be interested in. But I don't necessarily care what AEG's other game. Like, I like this game that AEG made. It's brilliant. I don't necessarily care if this other AEG game. It's like, Renegade made this. I love it. But the next Renegade product, it's a whole different game, and it might not have anything to do with it. So you don't quite see the same, I have to get every werewolf book, I have to get every Space Marine that they release for Space Marines kind of thing. So,
what about, so there's, you walk into the store, and there's just two main aisles of the main board games, and then on the next one, it leans into family all the way to little kids. Yeah. I'm always wondering how popular. So you devote a lot of space. There's a long stretch in the middle that's devoted to family and kid-friendly games. How do those sell, and who comes in for those?
Oh my God, so good. And it's the advantage of being, one of our advantages as a store is just longevity. And being around for 30 years means we have a lot of customers that they came in like me when the store started and they were young, and then now they're older and they have their own kids, and we're actually getting to the time where we're getting to that third generation now where the kids of our first customers are having kids. And so
you've got tabletop grandkids now.
Exactly. And it's fantastic. And man, these people come in with these adults now, which bothers me, because they'll come in with this kid who's 18 and he's going off to college, and it's like, no, you were a baby. Stop. You can't be. And they'll be like, oh, I drove here. And it's like, you can't drive, you're 10. And it's like, no, I'm 16. And it's like, I don't accept it. I don't like it. I can't handle this. But so we get these families. So we have so many that are just so gaming from the get-go.
Yes.
So get there. But now, especially with the cafe that we have attached, we have, the attached cafe. And that's brought in so many people that aren't, they're not coming to tabletop. They're coming to the cafe.
Is that a totally separate business, or are they wound together?
So we're sort of connected. Madeline, her and her husband Chase run the cafe over there.
Okay.
She worked for us because she was trying to do this cafe model she wanted to do. And
so she came to work for you with the vision that, I think I want to build this up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she wanted to do this thing, and so she worked for us for all to get kind of the feel of how our business worked, and then working with us to how she would build this cafe that would attach. But it's her. She did everything. We helped get some things in motion, and we helped with some financing and that sort of thing. But her and Chase did everything. In fact, that's how we wanted it, because Phil and I were like, man, it would be cool to have this attached cafe. I don't know how any of that works. I barely understand how my niche works here. All right, I can't add food and beverage and all that.
Yeah.
Byzantine rules for having alcohol and all this sort of thing. So she wanted to do that. So it was oh, you were willing to do that? This is magical. And it's great, because then there's a bunch of people that's sort of a built-in market for her, and she's brought in just a crazy amount of people that, again, go to the cafe, and then they're like, what's this place, as they poke in over on our side. And it's well, that's where you can buy all these cool games. So it's been just a fantastic synergy, not to get too businessy. Ugh.
Yeah.
I always feel a little queasy when I use a business word, but
those cafes. So I think tabletops. The fact that it's nestled, tabletop's been there a long time, and is it cardboard? What is it? Cardboard Corner Cafe.
Cardboard Corner Cafe. Yes.
Okay. These other board game and gaming and food establishments have popped up and died. There was another one that just recently in the Kansas City metro area. They come in. There's somebody passionate about the hobby that wants to do this thing. And it doesn't go well, because it's hard to run a place that sells food. It's hard to run a cafe.
It's hard to run a place, and food is exceedingly difficult. So yeah, I like to think that we provide a nice anchor to kind of help them get started. But
yes,
that's just, honestly, we're more just a safety net. They're doing well because, well, there's a lot of factors, but Madeline and Chase are just very good at what they do, so that helps a lot. But I like to think that we provide a little safety net. We provide a little anchor to help them. It's a good place to start to attach it, and it works out. I think we're helping each other out, but it's great. But anyway, that brings a ton of families in,
yes,
which helps with all these little kids games and everything. But
the cafe feels much more all ages. People come into the cafe to play games and do stuff, and then the family or kids come in and they want to buy this stuff that's more for family and kids.
Yeah, and especially now, we're at the time of year now that it's summer, hated summer again. where there's a lot of just like trying to find a place to bring the kids kind of thing, and they bring them to the cafe and then they play these games, and so these kids are, and then I think there's a lot of times parents are just bringing kids there to do a thing. You know, they want to get them out of the house, they want to go do something fun with their kids, and it's maybe something they're not familiar with, and then they find that their kids are like real eager to get into these games, and it's like, oh, this is great, this is the thing they want to do. It's not maybe on the screen all the time, it's something kind of social, and it gets them interested in doing this game that maybe they weren't familiar with before they just looked up this cafe and went there to hang out. And then they can come over and I can be like, oh, how old's the kid? 6? Rhino Hero, you know, whatever. Here's some games that are great for this age. Here's the games. And I mean, we have ones from 2 up to 4, 6, 8, 10, you know, whatever age the kids are. And there's enough of them that it's like, you can say, take these little kids who are, you know, kids 6 or whatever coming in, and it's like, does this look interesting? Because at that point, you're like, I mean, I'm not going to say I don't also judge games by their cover, but probably when they're 6 even more so. But it's like, look, there's a giant monsters punching each other. Sounds great. And, you know, they go from there. But that cafe has really helped to bring in more people that maybe weren't as familiar, so we want a lot more games that are like, I can set this game in front of anybody, and they will have a blast. And they can play it, and you don't need a lot of, like, prior, like, ability with games and prior like knowledge about how board games work or anything. Right. And some things, and then, you know, hey, sometimes they stay at that, and those are the kind of games that they want to play. And then some of these families come in, and a year later they're like, what's the grittiest, just hardest, you know, chunkiest game? I want this nonsense game that's just full of difficult pieces and a 1,000,000-page rule book and everything. And they go,
we're tired of Carcassonne. Have you guys heard of this game Twilight Imperium?
Yeah,
do you guys have that?
Yeah, it's like, oh, no worries, let's do it. But yeah, it's neat to see everyone kind of has their own journey through what board games and where they want to land and how they want to do it, and so we just try to have all of those.
So you talked up Madeline, the people at the cafe, and you're like, they're great at running that business. So the thing I observed when I came into tabletop I spent my entire life like you visiting. Were you into comic books too?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so comic books in gaming stores, and usually they were fused together. You'd go to the comic book store to buy the newest whatever, because it'd be the only place in town. But comic book stores, record stores, used bookstores are usually run by fans who are not necessarily good at customer service. And my immediate sense of coming into tabletop 20 years ago, Phil and whoever was working with him, or sometimes it was just him, he seems to have a special acumen for customer. He seems to like, or at least he's good at customer service and talking to people. So I'm curious, and that culture infuses the current state where the people who are there are also good at talking to people, and they're also good at customer service, and they're also good at making a nice, clean, well-run store. Most hobby stores are not that way. So what makes tabletop different?
Well, that's how we do it. Like you hit it exactly with how Phil was, and that's because I was the 16-year-old that was coming into the store. And
so did you learn like Padawan to Jedi? Did
exactly,
you learn his
feet? He brought this thing because he does, and again, it's a weird that it's like the superpower of Phil running this is he likes people. I mean, it's like it's a weird bar, but he's affable and he loves talking to people and he loves chatting, and we joke. I was earlier about like making all the crew do the hard work. My favorite part of the job is where I just get to shoot the shit with people that come in and want to talk. I mean, I like talking about games. Like I say, coming in, I want to do that anyway. In fact, it's hard to get me to stop talking about these things a lot of the time. So, and especially like for us, and I think he's in the same boat, is we'll be there and, you know, it's always, you'll see one of us and we'll be behind the computer and we're tapping away. And it's because we're doing invoices or paperwork, or there's some nonsense because small businesses just generate a mountain of it. Yeah. And I think Phil feels the same way about this that I do, is that then when somebody comes up and they're like, hey, I have a question about a game, it's like, oh, yes, please, get me, I hate this. This thing I'm doing over here is so boring. And I am ecstatic to talk to you. And people are like, I hate to bother you. It's like, please bother me. Oh my goodness. And especially now, because Phil, he does a lot of the like behind the scenes stuff. Like he does a lot of that invoicing and paperwork stuff that he does while I'm up at the store more. And so especially now for me, is if you come in and distract me and I don't get something done, I can probably voice that off on Phil. So it's like, please, I would love to talk to you exhaustively about any board games you're interested in, because that's the fun part. I love chatting with people, and like that's the thing, and that's how Phil's always been, and that's the first thing that we try to tell anybody that we hire, is that the most important part, anything that you're doing, the most important part is to take care of customers and make sure that they're getting things, because that's what we want. We want you to be able to come in and feel comfortable asking questions about it or ask things. We know a lot, and there's a ton. I mean, you come in and you look at this wall of board games or this wall of role-playing games, and all this looks so just obtuse and difficult to look
It's
into.
Inviting, but completely overwhelming.
Oh yeah, there's just a million, and especially it's like, I want a game, and it's like, well, I have 3,000 games. Like, so all you need is somebody to just come in and be like, look at these 4. Look at this. Let's start with these 4. They're all really good. See if one of those speaks to you, and then do a lap around the store, and if something catches your eye and you're like, ooh, that box really has something for me, we'll talk about it. That'll be great. But and that's all we want to do, is just like be a place where you can come in and anybody can come in and chat about games, and that's just what we want to do. And honestly, it just comes down to, man, I really like talking to people. And like, I learned that from Phil. He just likes talking to people. It's fun to chat about games, and that kind of thing. And we're fortunate that I'm reasonably affable and extroverted and that kind of thing. And I see some people go into starting stores, and like there's been a couple in the Kansas City areas when I was growing up and around other places I've been to, where it's like, oh, you're such a nice person, but you just are not great at talking to people. It's fine. Not everyone is. A lot of people just, and that's okay. But maybe don't have a job that's customer facing, because you're,
The other thing I saw, and I don't know, maybe you learned this, the fancy word for it is consultative strategy in sales, which is, I remember talking, I don't care at all about Warhammer and stuff. So I would ask Phil questions about Warhammer because I'm curious about it. I don't care about it, but I'm like, this dude knows a lot about it. So I'd find out what's selling, what's interesting. But he has a thing where you talk to him and then he knows something. Oh, do you know this? This came out. And I had the same thing with my favorite comic book store owner. You get to know the person, and the person's like, oh, you're curious about that? This just came in. They don't care whether you buy it. I want to tell you about this.
Yeah,
I'm in consultation with you. You tell me about the kind of stuff you're into or what you need right now, and let me think if I can solve that problem for you? Do I have a thing you should know about?
Yeah, and it's and a part of it satisfied. It's like the reason, a lot of nerds, and I'm firmly in this, is it's like, I want to tell you stuff. Like, I know facts, and I want to give you those facts, because that's like my love language, is teaching people about things. And look, I brought you this. It's a fact that might be interesting to you. I hope you like it. And that's how it is. So it's so satisfying just to do that. Like you say, when somebody comes in, they're like, I want to ask about this, and it's like, did you know there's a board game of that? Or it's like, oh, this new novel came out, and you should read that. Yeah. And that's why at the end of the day, the other thing that we always try to focus on is like, I care, but I don't care if you buy anything today, or if you buy a particular thing or whatever. Like, I don't want to sell you the biggest board game. I want you to leave enjoying the store, because that will make you come back, and you will sometimes buy things, and that's how we keep going. But because people come in all the time, and they'll be like, oh, I feel bad, I'm not buying anything. It's like, I don't care. Like, you don't have to. You can come in and you can just hang out. There are not enough places in the world where you can just go and just be there and hang out and have fun and chat with people and whatever. It's like, you don't have to buy anything when you come into the store. I need a number of people to periodically buy stuff to keep the thing running. People will do that. Because if you're an inviting place, people go in and they're going to see something and be like, yes, today is the day that I have the money and time, whatever, and I want to buy this thing. That's great. I don't care what day that is. I don't care who does it. I don't care which is. Everyone's got their own finances and their own things they're going through life and all their own place to be. Don't stress out about that. And I want people to not, you don't have to pay rent to go there or whatever. Just be a place where we can hang out, and enough people will buy stuff that it works out. And that's been our success. It's just been like, if we be a place that's fun to be and people be happy, people will support us enough. And we have a magnificent customer base. And I know, and I can tell that because people will come in and sometimes you can get stuff cheaper on the internet and that kind of thing. And the number of people that we have, and it's like, yeah, but this is the place where I play here. I get to answer questions. We have the customer service. I love this store. So, yeah, I'm going to buy this here instead of going to Amazon and buying it because I like to think because we're a place that people care about and everything. So, and part of that is not having to, like, just chill out. Just come in and chat with me about your Warhammer army for a while and then head on when you have to head on and you didn't pick up anything today. I don't feel bad about that interaction. That's I love it. Let's do it.
The old store across the street and down the road had the main store and then a door into, a lot of game stores have this, it's got it's got a snack machine and a soda machine or whatever. It's got a bathroom and it's got a bunch of tables and lights and chairs. So you can go play whatever game if you can find a slot. I'm embarrassed to say I've not fully explored Cardboard Cafe. So that space where you're talking about not having to pay rent, just showing up, you need a place to play a game, you want to paint miniatures with a group, you want to play miniatures with a group, you want to play a role-playing game with a group. Are there just as many flat top, are there just as many tables somewhere at Cardboard?
Oh.
Or is it like, and is it all reservable and you got to buy food and like a two-drink minimum?
No. So the thing we love, and the thing that I love that Madeline was on board for, is that, and I understand it's a hard business, so I don't judge anyone for how they run their place and do anything. But I love the fact that our game room is just free, and at Cardboard Corner it's just free. You can come in and play games, and it's free. And we ask, hey, if you can, buy a coffee. If you can, get some waffles. If you can, maybe buy a model or buy a board game. But that's always again, if you can, And again, it's not on any particular day. I don't want it to be like you have to come in and pay me $5 to come play in the game room. I know that people come in and they use our game room and they love our cafe and they love our store. So when it's time for them to be like, I'm going to buy a new Land Raider, or I'm going to buy this new board game, or I'm going to get the latest D&D book or whatever, that they'll come over and get it from us. Great. Love it. But so we have our connected game room, which was there before the cafe.
Okay, got it. And is that you go through the door and you make a right down the hall to the game room? Where is your game room now?
So it's like if you just walk into the store, there's a door to the left that goes into this big game room area. And there's like a garage room that we have like a big garage door that you can pull down so we can separate that off to be like, okay, there's a tournament in there today, and these tables that's them doing their thing, and it sort of separates it. And then there's a bunch of paint tables and a bunch of other open tables, and there's a few down to the hallway. And then in the back, there are 2 rooms that are private. Those are rentable. But there's just 2 rooms that are rentable, and they each have a big table in them, and you can bring whatever in there. And then the cafe next to that also has a ton of tables. And they have some smaller ones that are great for like little 2-player games or whatever, just like a game date kind of thing. And then there's larger tables that are great for like big war games or those sprawling Twilight Imperium board games, that kind of thing.
Right.
But again, all of those tables, with the exception of the 2 little private rooms in the back, all those tables are free to use. All the board games are free to play. We have a bunch of terrain for miniature games that are all free to use. So that's all just come on in and do it. So, and it's a hard question because you're paying rent on this space.
Yeah.
And that space I can't assign a dollar value to how much money that space brings in. Like, I know that I have this many feet devoted to Warhammer, and I can say Warhammer makes this much money. Great.
And it's easy. At Tabletop, I used to, and you would have the same problem at Tabletop. There's people in there playing games.
Yeah.
But of course, we're taking a bio break. There's something, I came in late to the game. I'm sitting around the table for 2 hours with my buddies, and it's bio break time. I go through the door to Tabletop and go look. I mean, you just go look around and maybe you buy something.
Yeah, it helps a lot. But so you don't know, like I don't have a direct thing, but our instinct has always been that having, again, this welcoming space that's free to use and free to play, that works. That pays for itself. And we've been going 30 years, so it seems to be going, knock on wood, pretty well so far. But it also makes me feel good at the end of the day, so that's a lot of it too. It's like I just like feeling good as a business owner.
Historically, obviously, CantCon, when CantCon started, the closest conference there's again Midwest Games Fest. Like there are other shows, but CantCon is super close because it's usually localized around the Overland Park area. It's always been, which is near Tabletop.
Yay!
So, what historically has been the relationship between CantCon and Tabletop? I'm curious what kind of things have happened in the past, and then this year, is there anything? What's Tabletop bringing? Are you guys going to have? We're going to have a booth. What are you doing?
We're going to have a booth. So for a long time. when they were started, like a number of the people that organize CanCon are regulars at our store and
Okay.
everything. So for a long time, we've always at least been big on like they ask for that kid to help with prize support or that kind of thing. We've always been like, yes, please, let's do some things. So there'll be like an advertising we get in their little book, and they get some stuff, and it's been great because it's just a great show, and it's just down the road, doesn't hurt at all. But even then, just having a good nerd show in the area is like, as you say, high tides and boats, and they raise all of them. So just having a place where a ton of nerds can go and find out about games, and then lo and behold, they're going to be like, I should go to a friendly local gaming store to maybe find this game. Great, love it. And then for quite a few years now, we've started having a booth down there. So we get a nice booth and everything, and it's great because then it's fun. I get to see a bunch of these nerds that I see regularly and like out in the wild kind of thing. It's like, oh, you there walking around. It's neat.
You exist outside my store. You don't just dissipate into the clouds when
they
leave the door.
Ether as soon as you are gone. So it's great. They're wonderful to work with. But so we have like a big booth down there, and we bring stuff. And like you say, there's people wandering around the con and everything, so they can see some stuff and find some items. And the nice thing is it's just down the road, so the number of times like Phil will be up there working the show, and I'll be back at the shop, and I'll get a text message from him, and he's like, bring up, wow, we need copies of this over there, and we just slap them up there or whatever. It's just down the road, so it's real easy to get back and forth on.
Do you also? So I'm two questions. Well, the first one I'll ask at CanCon or at conferences in general. If you go to conventions, what are sales like? Is it mostly like, we choose conventions close because we're hoping these people will come to the store because we don't have a booth because the sales are magnificent. How are sales at a convention?
Sales are good, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, they're not, like, we're not just using them as a, like, this will outreach people to learn about the store and that kind of thing. Like, at the end of the day, like, it costs this amount to have booth. Like, we're doing good. Like,
okay.
It is worth it to be there. Even if people didn't even know, if we didn't put tabletop on anything and no one knew anything about it, it's absolutely. If
you were bringing inventory from your garage as Joe Schmo, you'd still sell at the booth.
Yeah, it's still doing good. And a lot of it is, as I say, as a person that goes to a lot of conventions, con money spends different. So I'm vulnerable to it as well. Like, you're at the con, it's like, this isn't real money anymore. Nothing.
Totally happens to me.
I go to Adepticon every year, and it's like, gimme.
And you want to support people. The people who make this stuff oftentimes are there, and you're like, this guy wrote a book. I want to buy his book.
And you're just getting people psyched out about like that. This nerd's coming off of just played this amazing game of Vampire. They just played this amazing game of D&D. They just played this amazing game, and especially people use cons a lot of times to play games that are like they haven't played before.
Yes,
like it's such a great like. I'm not going to the con to play. I'm not going to go to the con to play Vampire because I played a million games of Vampire. I'm going to go to the con to play game X that seems neat, but I've never had a chance to try. Right. And then you get done with a cool session of it, and you're like, I must buy this now. Like, I can't wait an hour? That's insane.
And you can walk 20 steps over, and there's the book, and you can buy it right now.
And I'm powerfully vulnerable to that. Like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done, and I must own all of it immediately because it's amazing. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I did mention just I forgot my dice. I need some
100%.
Dice. I forgot my tape measure. I forgot, like, the number of times that I've bought dice because it's like, in my own shop, in fact, as I come up there to play games. And then I'm like, dang it, again. And, of course, so many little dice goblins out there, of which I am one. So, bring a lot of bring a lot of dice, and you got to look at them, and, they're so... It's the time. You're at a fancy con. You're about to go play a cool game. Well, you should bring some cool new dice for this cool new game you're playing. So,
okay, that's so accessibility. You talked about the store. You want people to come in, and you're not concerned whether they buy right now or they get this right now. They're more concerned they have a good experience. So when they're going to buy something, they come back. They feel comfortable buying stuff here. Role playing games, especially board games, a little, but still. Are highly accessible hobbies monetarily. Again, even a $50 role-playing book. Here is a $50 book. It's very expensive. You don't normally buy $50 books. But after you buy this $50 book, with a handful of dice, you can pick out of board games or go buy, here's $10. Here's a $10 dice, $50 book. You can play forever. You can do this game forever. Your entire group can do it forever. So 6-10 people can all play off this one book and one set of dice. Highly economical gaming.
Yeah, and that's been what we've seen as, 30 years we've gone through recessions, we've gone through all this, different economic times and everything. And that's what we see is that we're it's especially as times are hard, it's entertainment efficiency in these sort of things is a big deal. And yeah, that idea that's like, I can buy, sure, Carcassonne costs, $40 or whatever, but yeah, I can play however many games of Carcassonne I want, like that sort of thing. And that's a big deal for people. And again, and that's what I tell you, especially people come in for role-playing games is the big one of this, is they'll come up to that D&D shelf, or they'll come to that Pathfinder shelf, or whatever, and there's like 900 books, and people are like, oh my goodness, what is it? It's like, you need this book.
Right.
This player's handbook. You need this, you need some dice. And they'll like models and everything. It's like, yeah, it's all cool. This stuff's awesome. I love it. You don't need any of that. You need this book, you need some dice, done. And then if you're enjoying it, and you're like, ooh, maybe some models would be cool. Great. I got models for you. I got models for days. Let's do this thing. And you're like, I want to play this campaign, or I want to do this thing. Awesome. I got that for you. But you can get that exactly at the pace that you want to get that, and there's no like obligation to do so to play that game. And it's so handy for that.
It's a cheap entry point to get in, and it's not a trick, because you really, again, Vampire in my day in the 90s, White Wolf was putting out tons of source books, or source books for everything. And some people wanted all of them. And some people are like, I bought the first book. We ran a campaign for 6 years off the first book. I don't need any, this other stuff's interesting, but I don't need other people to write this fiction for me. I'm going to make my own world. So again, the entry point, that book, well, these are the rules. This is the world. If you guys have a bunch of imagination, you can run from there.
Yeah, and you can do whatever, and that's one of the great things about the hobby, is that there's so much freedom, kind of just do whatever you want out of that and that kind of thing. So, and it's nice, and that's what I like about, especially with the niche of role-playing games now, is there's so many out there that you can find whatever starting point you're kind of looking for, and then kind of go from there and go nuts with it.
Having been around the hobby for a long time, looking at miniatures, looking at tabletop role-playing games, looking at board games, looking at the accompanying tchotchkes and stuffed animals. That's the other thing. I love going into tabletop. There is a wide assortment also of like, oh, there's stuffed animals. So again, not just for kids, like everybody's got these little Cthulhu stuffed animals and stuff everywhere. And just like you said, the cozy games, the cottagecore little things. Yeah. Do you have great optimism about everything in gaming? Or is there anything out there? Are there any trends that have you worried at all about gaming?
I mean, the only worries I have are, again, larger economic nonsense that is stressful.
Games getting more expensive, people not having money to spend on them.
Right. But that's a greater, I mean, that's not the game industry. That's just the world. No, and it's a thing. Like, I feel very much, there's always trends, and I hate is a strong word, but I get annoyed that there's always people on the internet that something comes out and something gets done to death. This is the new trend. Like, cozy games has been the big one this last year. I think it's great. I love these cozy games. But, some people don't like cozy games. Some people want a more gritty game. And you get a bunch of people that are like, why are all these games like this? We should have more grit. And it's like, there are gritty games out there, so be cool. And then also, wait 6 months and there's going to be a new thing. And, it's like, there's all these new trends, and, like the Borg games are huge, all your Mork Borgs and your whatever thing. I love them. Great. They're awesome. And that's like a big trend for a while. And that's going to be that way for a while, and eventually that's not going to be the thing. And we're going to be like, hey, remember back in like the mid-2020s when we were like really into board games for a while? Awesome. That was a thing. So there's always going to be these trends. There's going to be new ones, and some of them you're going to be like, this is the coolest thing that's ever been, and I love everything about it. And some trends are just going to leave you kind of cold. But who cares? Like, the nice thing about the industry right now is there's so much stuff that even if this is the big trend, there's still stuff for you out there. Just you got to go find it. And some people love this trend. Let them have their moment in the sun where this is the coolest thing for them. And not everything has to be for you. And again, I'll do the same thing. I'll get grumpy when this is the kind of game that's the really cool game for a while, and I'm not interested. It just doesn't do it for me. I'm not interested in it. I don't care. But then I see somebody come in, and they're like, oh my god, they're finally making games of this, and that person is in heaven right now. And good for them. Let them enjoy this thing, and eventually the wheel of trends will come around, and the thing that you love is going to happen, and you'll have your time. But in the meantime,
what are you talking? It's just like sports. Like you're whatever. The Detroit Tigers are doing terribly, but the A's are doing wonderfully. I hate the A's. I like the Tigers. I hate complaining about other people and the stuff they like. It's a major component of conversation.
Guys. That is my biggest gripe is when people
I like it
like a zero-sum game, or that it's like, this is my, like, that you're having fun wrong. It's like, man, if your group's having fun, like, the number of times, again, I'll have people come in, they'll tell me about their games, and man, sometimes people bring games, and I'm like, that sounds awful. Like, I would hate to be in that game. That game sounds not fun to me at all. It sounds the worst. But guess what? I'm not in that game. So it does not matter. Like, if they are having a bunch of fun, they're doing it right. And it's the same thing. It's like, if the game comes out, if people are loving it, then let them love that thing. You don't have to. And, you know, there's a room for criticism of things, but people get so much invested in this, like, I like D&D, so Pathfinder has to suck.
Yes, or, and I like Pathfinder. Wizards of the Course is the worst. D&D sucks.
Yeah, and it's like, you like one better. And I love that conversation where I say, it's like, ooh, I like, you know, Shadowrun more because XYZ, and I like that more because of these things than this other thing. I love that conversation. I love it to death because that lets us find out what you like and where we should go. But you can do that without being like, and these guys suck. This other thing that I don't like is the worst, and their fans are terrible, and anyone that likes it's a moron. It's like, no, man, they're all having fun. Do you now, so then I'm curious, just communication-wise, do you steer conversations when people are coming at you with the, they're terrible and we're great, and here's all the reasons they're terrible and we're great? Do you steer or do you just drop out of those conversations? I try to steer back. I try to be relentlessly positive. And that... sometimes I get some flack for it because it's like I'll be an apologist for whatever.
Sure.
But,
you play devil's advocate. The other person's going so hard in the hate. You're like, well, and
again, and I won't like, and it depends, defending, but like, yeah, the idea that it depends on their angle that they're going on. It's like, well, but these people like D&D for X, Y, and Z reasons if you're hating on D&D. Now, if you're like, then they sent the Pinkertons after Magic players. It's like, well, I'm not defending that one. That was shitty, man. That was real bad. But, you know, and try to separate also, like, sometimes entities do things that are shitty, but the people that like the thing that they make, they're still just, man, they like D&D. It's cool. Yeah. You can say things that are bad about Wizards of the Coast, for instance, without suggesting that everyone that likes D&D is an idiot.
Right.
And that kind of thing. And it's like, we gotta have a little separation, because a lot of us, like, I'll be the first to admit, it has been a long time since I've run a D&D game. Like, D&D is, I'm not a high fantasy guy. Like I say, my roots are in, like, vampire and werewolf and these, like, horror sort of things. That's what I love. That was, like, the first game I ever played was Shadowrun. I want that. I don't play a lot of D&D, but
you started dark and you stayed dark,
and I stayed there. That's where I love to be. And like I say, this cozy things. I love that people are enjoying their cozy games.
Me too.
But
yeah.
I don't want to play a cozy game. I want it to be horrible and dark and everything's sad and people are getting murdered and blah. You know, it's the wrestling with the monster that I am.
Yes,
you know, all that
exactly.
nonsense. That's what I thrive on. But you can't tell me when I walk into the game room and a bunch of people are just having the time of their life playing D&D that they're doing anything wrong. That group is having the most fun they've ever had. So, shut up. They're doing great. They're having fun. Everything is awesome. And I don't care that you don't like D&D in that sense. Like, you should not play D&D. That's fantastic. And I can tell you about 18 million games that I hope you'll like, and I want you to like those and have fun and similar. And then I want those D&D kids to not look over at and all I ask in return is that when you see me playing this, oh god, I've slaughtered everyone close to me because of the monster that lives within, and you look at that and you're like, that seems the worst game in the world, that you appreciate I'm having a blast and I'm enjoying it, and that's good for me. And you might be like, I don't ever want to sit down at a table with you to play this game. It sounds awful, but I'm enjoying myself, and I should be allowed to enjoy that. And you're enjoying yourself, and you're allowed to enjoy that. None of us are hurting anybody.